Hello there everybody, What Culture's Adam Cleary here, and it's time for a little story, right? Okay, so set the scene. I am like 14, 15 years old. I am in that kind of bad high school covers band that I imagine 90% of you were in. We have a gig coming up, and I have somehow convinced the girl I really fancy in high school to come and watch us play, because I'm so convinced, so overwhelmingly in belief, that if she just sees me on stage, she will fall madly in love with me. And it's all going to plan. We're playing relatively well. We haven't messed anything up. And then, then, in the closing song of the set, I can't remember what song it was, but right before the chorus kicked in, there's like a little build-up bit. And just as it kicked in, right, I jumped in the air and did that thing you do with your guitar. I thought I was the coolest person on planet Earth. And after we finished, I went and spoke to her, and she was like, oh my god, wow, didn't know you had such cool moves. And I was like, well, you know, sometimes the music, I had long hair at the time, sometimes the music just sort of takes over and you've got to just let it out. And she's like, yeah, I love that jump you did at the end. I was like, oh yeah, did you? Yeah. She went, yeah, everyone in Busted does that. And my face just went, ah. And the thing is, me being such a rock kid at the time, the very mention of the fact that it was associated with Busted was enough for me to swear on my mother's grave that I would never again, while playing music, jump up in the air and do the bow guitar move, because I was just so embarrassed by that comparison. And now you're about to watch the list version of the wrestling version of that. That's the intro. I've been in this flat alone for 5 days now. They're gonna get weird. Anyway, yes, my name is Adam Cleary, and these are 10 precise moments WWE stars retired iconic moves. Number 10, The Undertaker, The Last Ride. Yes, when The Undertaker returned from his Turn O the Millennium hiatus, he had himself a brand new image. Gone was the, oh my god, does this guy work in a mortuary stick? And replacing it was the, oh my god, does this guy work in a bike shop stick? However, the problem with that is that the move, the Tombstone Piledriver, sounds more at home in a graveyard rather than an episode of Sons of Anarchy. So he needed a new move with which to sort of cement his new character. And his solution was The Last Ride, just a powerbomb, but he lifts his opponent up in the air by the shorts, I guess, and then drops them from a slightly greater height. It was cool. Now, of course, after that, he did then start swapping between the two gimmicks. There was like Booger Red, and then he was The Undertaker again, but he still hasn't got the lightning powers and such, so he keeps using that move in his arsenal. There'd be the chokeslam, the tombstone, and he would still occasionally do The Last Ride as well. It was just sort of in his arsenal. But then as time and age took a toll on his body, he found it increasingly difficult to get somebody up those last few inches, or indeed get them up in the first place, so he started to use it less and less. But the very final straw for that move came in the main event of WrestleMania 33. He didn't even have to lift Roman Reigns up. He was already standing on the turnbuckle, but as he staggered out into the middle of the ring with a hefty man on his shoulders, yeah, they are his shoulders, he tried to lift him up, and his arms sort of didn't quite do it, and he just dropped him instead. It looked terrible. And not unlike The Undertaker, the move was a shadow of its former self, so we pretty much just retired it on the spot. Number 9, Brock Lesnar, Shooting Star Press. Just remember to turn the light on there. Anyway, Brock Lesnar was never famed for the Shooting Star Press. When he debuted on the main roster, his finisher was the F5, and he rarely, if ever, so much as ventured to the top rope. But the thing is, he could do the Shooting Star Press. He knew he could do it. He'd done it in his training. He'd done it in developmental. He knew that the sight of someone like him flying through the air in that manner was a sight to behold. He knew he had it in his back pocket, and he knew if he dusted it off for the first time in front of a major crowd in the main event of WrestleMania, he would have an undeniable WrestleMania moment for the ages. And then after 20 minutes of intense wrestling against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19, he planned on doing just that. This was his show-stopping moment. This was his game-changing moment. And as Angle lay prone in the middle of the ring, he went up to do it. The only problem was Kurt Angle was some halfway across the ring, and his legs were getting a bit wobbly. And you all know what happened to him next. He went for it anyway, but he could not complete the rotation and the distance in the same jump, and came down hard on his head. That was supposed to be the finish of the match, but it forced the two of them to come up with something else on the fly. The only problem at this stage was that all Lesnar could see was little birds dancing around his head. That was 17 years ago that now, my friends, and he has not once attempted to do it again. He retired it immediately after that because, well, who can blame him? Number 8, Seth Rollins, the curb stomp. Now, a bit of a technicality this one, because yes, he did bring it back at one stage, but he did also fully retire it forever, allegedly, and thus when he did bring it back against Finn Balor that time, it was a bit of a headline grabber. Now, this was originally called the Blackout from his time as Tyler Black on the indie scene, but that survived the transition to WWE, and Seth Rollins used it all the time. He even won the WWE Championship with it when he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania. But then not long after that, comparisons started getting drawn in the media to real-life curb stomping and the horrendous racial implications of that, and WWE did not want those headlines. So they had Seth drop the move as quickly as they possibly could, and he experimented with doing the pedigree, didn't he? Then he had that really bad ripcord knee thing, we call it the Kingslayer, or some rubbish. He tried a load of different things, but the last time he ever officially used the curb stomp before it was retired was against, this took me ages to research, Randy Orton on an episode of Raw, right before Extreme Rules, I think. Orton wins, he wins the triple threat match, he's the #1 contender, and Rollins crawls into the ring and curb stomps him. I originally thought it was going to be Neville from the same show, but no, he did that later in the night. So that was, for a time, the moment he officially retired it. Number 7, Paige, the Paige Turner. Adam, how can you call the Paige Turner an iconic wrestling move? It's not even that good. Well, yeah, alright, you have got a point there, nerd, but just allow me to offer you the following facts. First of all, not only did she win the first ever NXT Women's Championship with it, I think, she also won the Divas Championship with it on her first night on the main roster. And thirdly, most importantly, it is also a central narrative premise of the entire Fighting With My Family movie. Because she gets it off her brother, and then you have the move, and there's all that tension and stuff. It's iconic, alright? It was in a film. The only problem with the move was that it just didn't really look that good ever, did it? Like, even if somebody took it right, which they hardly ever did, by the way, it just lacked the sort of impact that it was supposed to have to end a wrestling match, especially for a wrestler who was as much of a game changer as Paige was at the time. She really needed something more effective, and pretty much the moment when AJ Lee failed to take it correctly, there was a little delay between her hitting it and her hitting the thing. It pretty much, the writing was on the wall for it. She needed something more effective. So she started transitioning it out. She used the PTO Paige tap out and the Rampage and stuff, but the last official use of the Paige Turner that I could find after hours researching it was in that episode of Main Event against Natalya. You know the one, because it was in Total Divas, because Paige licked her, didn't she? And she got, air quotes, annoyed about it. That was the last Paige Turner, apparently. Number 6, CM Punk, the Pepsi Plunge. Now, of course, precisely why CM Punk doesn't use the Pepsi Plunge anymore is open to interpretation. A lot of people seem to think it's just a super pedigree, thus when you sign with WWE and the boss's son-in-law is using the normal pedigree, it's pretty much not going to be allowed to be used. But of course, there's the theory that obviously a move like that is very intense on the knees. You are literally landing on your knees from the top rope every single time. So Punk just retired it because he wanted to lengthen his career. He didn't want the wear and tear on these old bad lads. And of course, there's the other theory that Pepsi would have had a problem with it, because I mean, if you're doing it on the indies, it's one thing, but when you're doing it on Raw and SmackDown every week, it's quite another. Whatever the theory is, it doesn't matter. He just stopped doing it the day he signed with WWE. And it was literally the day he signed with them. All his first matches in Ohio Valley Wrestling, and I sat through so many of them. He ends with a roll-up or just a cheap interference spot or something like that. It's not for a long time does he actually properly get in the GTS. He stopped the Pepsi Plunge when he signed with WWE, meaning the last time he used it, and this took ages of research as well, was against Austin Aries when he won the Ring of Honor title. I think it is. Anyway, if someone else can find a match between there and him leaving Ring of Honor that he uses it in, please stick it in the comments, but I spent hours looking this up. He didn't use it in his last 3 matches. He didn't use it when he got a fall against Colt Cabana in his last match. I think it was against Aries, but there you go. Number 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin, $1 Million Dream. Now you think right now that I'm going to say that the last time Steve Austin used the $1 Million Dream was in WrestleMania X7 against The Rock, because that was that big popper moment where he dove right back into his back catalogue to find something that he could beat The Rock with, but it wasn't. I nearly wrote that down in the script, but it wasn't. It was against Kurt Angle at SummerSlam a couple of months later. Now, if you're not familiar with the move, it's basically like a form of a Cobra Clutch that Austin used to use when he was the ringmaster, pretty much until he learned how to use the Stone Cold Stunner, which is obviously the best finisher in all of wrestling, so he dropped it. But he kept it as part of his arsenal for a long time until Bret Hart managed to reverse it into a roll-up to beat Austin. It was pretty much Austin blamed the move for costing him the match, and he dropped it entirely, only bringing it out when he was really desperate. And he did, every so often it would come out every now and then, but the final straw was when Kurt Angle literally used in 2001 the exact same Bret Hart reversal tactic of like running his feet up the turnbuckle, dropping back, and then rolling over into a pin to try and beat Austin. He was like, it's too, everyone's got me, everyone's got Stone Cold's number on this $1 Million Dream now, not doing it again. So there you go, Austin hasn't done that since 2001 SummerSlam. Number 4, Kevin Owens, the package piledriver. Yeah, there's kind of a running theme in this video of stars dropping their finisher the second they sign with WWE, but in Kevin Owens' case it is understandable because piledrivers are not allowed. We'll get to precisely why in a little bit, but Kevin Owens' package piledriver, which is much safer than a regular piledriver, I should say, that won Kevin Steen so many matches all across the world, but when he came to WWE, to NXT specifically, he was told that was a no-go, so he replaced it with the pop-up powerbomb instead. He does like to tease it quite a lot though. He'll get somebody in the position for it, and everyone in the crowd who knows what it is goes, oh my god, yeah, because you're going to do the package piledriver, but either they just counter out of it or he turns it into something else. Well, now, anyway, the last time he managed to do it before going to WWE was against, brace yourself for this one, Jerry Lawler in a piledriver versus piledriver match. That was his last indie date before NXT. Really. Number 3, Samoa Joe, Muscle Buster. Samoa Joe, for years and years and years and years, used the Muscle Buster as a finisher without any serious consequences or side effects for his opponents. And then, one day in a match against Tyson Kidd for WWE, in a freak accident, he left him with a kind of neck injury that only 5% of people even live after suffering. It was a horrendous accident. Now, WWE quite rightly didn't blame either man for this happening, but they did look at the move and decide it probably wasn't worth the risk in future. So they asked Samoa Joe if he wouldn't mind shelving it going forward, and he made the Coquina Clutch his finisher instead. But he didn't drop the move entirely straight away. What he did instead was just start to phase the move out. He would use it on NXT tapings every now and then. He beat Finn Balor with it, including for the NXT Championship at one point. It kind of stayed part of his arsenal, but certainly not his finisher. The last recorded usage of it that I can find, anyway, is against Shinsuke Nakamura at NXT TakeOver New York 3 in 2016. But I don't know, maybe have a look yourself, you might have some better luck with that. Interestingly, Samoa Joe has said that the move isn't banned, he can do it whenever he wants, he just hasn't found the right opportunity. Whether or not that's just heel speak for, yeah, I can't actually use it, but I've got to still look like a bad guy who isn't just getting told off by the office, I don't know, but there you have it. Number 2, Randy Orton, the punt. Yep, this was banned by Vince McMahon. Basically, Vince loves the idea of children watching wrestling. He tailors his product to them, but he hates the idea of children doing wrestling moves. Now, the idea of little Jimmy hoisting his sister on his shoulders and hitting her with a AA, that feels relatively safe. But the idea of little Jimmy running up and kicking her in the temple of the head while she's down picking up her Legos, that doesn't fly. So WWE, for numerous reasons, including an increased precaution over concussions, asked Randy Orton to stop doing the move altogether, and he did. It had been a big part of his arsenal. He punted whoever the hell he liked. He punted Vince, for Christ's sake, but he stopped doing it pretty much as soon as he was asked. Around 2012, they banned him from doing it, and he only busted out a few more times after that, the last recorded example being against The Big Show at Extreme Rules in 2013, but since then, nothing. Even though you, yes you, wanted him to do it to Beth Phoenix, monster. Number 1, the piledriver. Now, officially, WWE banned the piledriver in the year 2000 after the right to censor Spike piledrivered, Spike piledrove, piledriven, piledroved, piledrivered China and broke her neck. Now that was, of course, kayfabe. China didn't really break her neck, but WWE did ask backstage for people to stop using the move. I think they just outright banned it. It wasn't because it was particularly dangerous, but it was just given it wasn't really a big move for too many people at the time, just the amount of damage that was coming as a result just wasn't worth it. Like, it wasn't every time somebody took a piledriver they were getting injured, but the amount of times they were just didn't seem worth the risk. Now, there were some exemptions to this, of course. The Undertaker and Kane were allowed to keep doing the tombstone because the relative position of the head meant it was slightly safer than a regular piledriver, and somehow, someway, the Canadian Destroyer is a transitional move in WWE now, but regular piledrivers, they are not allowed. Now, in 2007, Shawn Michaels and John Cena did a piledriver during their WrestleMania match. Shawn Michaels dropped him headfirst on the steel steps. That had been cleared by Vince McMahon as an "I trust you, Shawn, honestly, and it is a special occasion" exception. But then there was one other time. In 2013, CM Punk leaned into John Cena's ear on an episode of Monday Night Raw and said, "I kinda wanna give you a piledriver, John." And John said, "Okay." And they did a piledriver without clearing it with Vince, who apparently hit the goddamn roof about it. So while that was the last time it has been seen in a WWE ring, it was actually officially banned / retired / whatever way back in the year 2000. Of course, with apologies to Jerry Lawler and Cactus Jack, who were still using it as a finisher. So there you have it. Those are 10 precise moments WWE stars decided to retire moves read to you by a man who, again, will never, as long as he lives, go on wang in the middle of a gig. Let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary. Yes, this really is my flat, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.